Hi students, welcome back to the next video of this chapter. In this video, we'll understand the key features of the Constitution as well as the history of the Constitution while it was being drafted. Okay, moving forward. Alright, so as I told you that in this video, we are going to cover the history of the Constitution while it was being drafted. So basically, the nationalist leaders, as I told you, that there were nationalist leaders or political leaders, nationalist leaders who basically formulate rules and regulations for us, which is then written on a document called as Constitution. So during the independence, there was nationalist leaders who were fighting for our independence, and those nationalist leaders during the fight in independence, before the independence, after the independence, during all that, they realized that they wanted a country which was free. They wanted India to be as a free country. That means they wanted to give equal rights to each and every person, and that is they wanted a democratic country. Okay, they wanted each and every person to have equal rights, to have an equal say in the country, and that is they wanted India to be a democratic country. And so they wanted a constitution, a political system that was democratic. And as I told you, that political leaders come together. Political leaders come together through a common consensus. Through a common consensus. That is a general agreement. Common consensus while formulating the rules and regulations, which are then drafted on the document which is called Constitution. So while during the independence the Constitution was being drafted, there were 300 people. Yes, there were 300 people who were the members of the Constituent Assembly. That means the 300 people who were the nationalist leaders, who were the political leaders, came together to draft the Constitution, for which they met regularly for the next 3 years. Continuously for 3 years they met in order to draft the Constitution, and there were 300 people who used to meet regularly for 3 years in order to draft the Constitution. Moving forward. Okay. So while the Constitution was being drafted, there were some problems at that time. Obviously, since the independence would have just happened, we just got independent. So there was a diverse culture. So all the people who were basically formulating the rules and regulations for us, and all the people who were drafting the Constitution, had to keep in mind certain things. Now, one of the things is the diverse culture, language, and religion. Now, what do we mean by diverse culture and religion? That is, as we all know, that there are Hindus and there are Muslims. There are Hindus and there are Muslims in our country. There are Sikh, there are Sai, there are Christians, there are Punjabis. There are so many different types of religions, and all the people speak different languages. And apart from Hindu and Muslims, there are Maharashtrians, there are Gujaratis, and all those speak different languages. So while drafting the Constitution, the nationalist leaders, all those who were making the Constitution, had to keep in mind the diversity of India, and had to decide one national language which was spoken by the majority of people in India, and that is they did Hindi as the national language. So they had to keep in mind certain things while drafting the Constitution, that there are so many kinds of people that live in a country, that live in this country, and there are so many different kinds of people who speak different languages. So while drafting the Constitution, they had to keep in mind the language that was supposed to be the national language, that it is spoken by the majority of people, and everybody agrees that yes, Hindi can be the national language for the country. So they had to respect their customs and their religion and their language while drafting the Constitution, while drafting the national language of the country. Okay. Also, other things, that is, while the Constitution was being drafted at that time, the partition was just about to happen, right, between India and Pakistan. So it was a very sensitive time, that time when the Constitution was being drafted. So everything was to be kept in mind while drafting it. Also, while the Constitution was being drafted, since I told you that the partition was just about to happen, obviously, the time the economic condition of India was not that great. Not everybody was very rich, or mostly people were very poor. Their economic condition was not that great. So basically, I was telling you that the economic condition of India was not that great that time during the partition, and that is why the members of the Constituent Assembly, those 300 people, had to keep in mind the economic condition of the people and also the diversity of people that live in India during the making of the Constitution. So moving on to the key features of the Indian Constitution, which says that the key features of Indian Constitution include federalism, parliamentary form of government, separation of power, fundamental rights, and secularism. So these are the key features of the Constitution, which we'll understand thoroughly one by one in the other slides. Moving on. Federalism. So basically, federalism is nothing but a level so basically, this refers to the existence of more than one level of government. So any country which is more than one level of government is known as a federal country. And since we know that there are three levels of government in India, that is, first is central. We all know that there is a central government in India, which we know that is BJP right now, and the leader of BJP is Mr. Narendra Modi. We all know that. Then we have state government, which is different for each and every state. In my state, in my city, that is Delhi, we have Aam Aadmi Party. In your state, it could be someone else. The next one, that is the district government or the local government. You could say the local government, which is the government for the villages. So this very small towns, which we say as the panchayat. So that is the panchayat, the district government, which is for the villages. So that we can say that these are the panchayat, the local panchayats of the villages. So basically, we have three kinds of government. We have more than one level of government: central government, state government, district level government. So we have a federalism in our country. Our country is a federal country because we have more than one level of government. Apart from this, since we have different levels of government, do not think that if state government comes under the central, if state government is under central government. State government is not under central government. Each and every form of each and every level of government has a different task to do, have different sectors of the country under them that they have to undertake, that they have to take care of. And so the state is not under the central, but in case there is a fight or there is a disagreement between central and state, there is a disagreement between central and state. In that case always the opinion of central will prevail, because central government is somewhere superior to the state government, but it does not come under, but the state government still does not come under the central government. The government has allocated different tasks for each level of government that each level of the government has to undertake. But in case of any disagreement, the center prevails because it is somehow superior to the state government. But this does not mean that the state government comes under the central government. The government has allocated different tasks for each level of the government. And now let's understand which are the tasks that each level of the government has to undertake. Moving forward. Okay, so what basically the Constitution has done, so there is a distribution of power between the union, the state, and the concurrent list. So union list belongs to the central government, the state list belongs, that's quite evident, to the state government, and the concurrent list belongs to the both of them. So the works, the tasks, the sectors which are under this concurrent list, that is adoption of forestry or education, could be undertaken by either central or state, could be taken by the both of the two also. So it is a choice. It could be either taken by central or state or the both of the two, right? So this is a list of which this is the list under which the tasks which are given under this list could be undertaken by either central or state or the both of the two or any of the two. Okay, so union list is basically the task or the sectors which are under the central government, and the state list basically mentions the sectors which are under the state government. So police, agriculture, and fisheries are the sectors which the central government has to take care of, And defense, railways, foreign affairs are basically the sectors which the central government has to take care of. So the constitution has basically the distributed power between union list, state list, and concurrent list. Union list basically tells you the sectors which are under the central government. The central government has to take care of that. The state list tells you the sectors which are under the state government. So the state government has to take care of these sectors, and the concurrent list has the list of the sectors which could be taken care by either the central government or the state government or any of the two. Moving forward. So here is the another feature. We covered one feature, that was federalism. This is another feature, which is parliamentary form of government. Now you might have seen your parents going and voting for their elected representatives. So elected representative are basically the political leaders who run the government, like BJP, Bharatiya Janata Party, who is right now the central government of India. That government was also elected by the citizens of the country. So basically, what do? The citizens of the country elect their representative, and whosoever gets the majority vote becomes the government. So since the central government is of Bharatiya Janata Party, they might have got the majority votes for the central government election, and then they form their government, and now running the government in our country. So this is how citizens elect their elected representative, and through the process of voting. So this is basically known as, this entire process of voting to elect their elected representative is called as a parliamentary form of government. So every citizen in our country which is above the age of 18 gets the right to vote for their elected representative, which is known as universal adult franchise. Also, universal adult franchise. Every citizen of the country, irrespective of their social background, can also contest an election to elect their elected representative, and this process is known as universal adult franchise. Whereas this entire process of voting for your elected representative and the government which gets the majority votes form their government and then run the country. This whole process is known as parliamentary form of government. This means that the people of India have a direct role in electing their representative. This means that people of India have a direct role in electing their representative. It is rightly to say that people of India have a direct role in electing their representative, since the people of India, the citizens of the India, only elect the government that they want to run the country. So the Bharatiya Janata Party, who is right now the central government of India, is not elected by themselves. People of India, through the process of a universal adult franchise, have elected the government Bharatiya Janata Party, and Bharatiya Janata Party got the majority votes. That is why it was able to make their government and now run the country. So this is how the government is formed in our country, and this entire process is known as the parliamentary form of government. And it is right to say that people of India have a direct role, because they are the ones who elect the representative, they are the ones who elect the government through voting. Okay. All right. And these representatives are accountable to the people. Why do you say that they're accountable? They are accountable means that they're answerable. Since the people have elected them, since the people have elected the government is also supposed to meet the expectations of the people. Since if I am voting for someone, I'm voting because I see the capability in that person that they will do something good for the country, and they are also supposed to prove us that yes, your decision was right, we are capable of doing something good. And that is why we say that these representatives are answerable to the people, because people have elected them because they saw something, they saw some potential in them. They thought that okay, this government can do something better, they can do for the betterment of the society, and that is why they chose them. So this is also the duty of the government, to do something good, to meet the expectations of the people, and to be answerable to the people. Okay. Separation of the power. You might have heard that you will be charged if in case that you don't wear a seatbelt. So this is a law that has been made in the country. So now you might wonder that who makes these laws. So these laws are basically made by the legislature. So legislature is basically one of the organs of the government which is responsible for making the laws, which is responsible for making the laws. And these laws are basically nothing but the rules and regulations which everybody has to abide by. And as we know that these rules and regulations are made by the political leaders. The political leaders which we elect. So obviously, if the political leaders which we are electing, they are also known as the elected representatives. The elected representatives. Elected means representatives that we have elected. So these political leaders who basically formulate the rules and regulations for us are also known as the elected representatives, since we are the ones who are electing them. So the legislature is basically the organs which comprises of the elected representatives who make the laws for us. For example, the member of the Legislative Assembly, MLAs, the member of the Parliament, MPs, etc. Now coming to the executives are basically the police officers, which basically implement this law. They actually they are responsible for checking whether the law that has been implemented is being followed by each and everyone. And in case that anybody violates it, the person will be charged for the same. The person will have to pay a penalty for the same. So this is the responsibility of the police officers to check whether everybody is following the law or not. So this is basically comprises of the people who are responsible for implementing the law and running the government, like the police officers, like the IPS officers, okay, like the police officers, the IPS officers, the IAS officers, and so on, so forth. Okay, refers to the system of the country, refers to a system of court in the country. Judiciary. So what do we mean by judiciary? So judiciary is basically nothing but the Supreme Court, the High Court, and the District Court, which are basically responsible for punishing the people who violates the law. They are responsible for checking whether the government, whether the legislature, whether the executive, whether all the other citizens of the country, no matter prime minister, president, are following the laws that have been made in the country. And since I gave you an example of a rule that that it is important, it is mandatory in a country to wear the seat belt. So this is a very small and a very not a very heavy criminal offense, even if you don't wear the seat belt. So in case that anybody does a criminal offense, in case there is a murder, that case will directly go to the Supreme Court, the High Court, the District Court, right, and so on and so forth. So basically judiciary refers to the Supreme Court, the High Court, and the District Court, which is basically responsible for giving the justice to the people by punishing the people who have violated the law. And it could be even legislature. So the judiciary is independent judiciary. Independent judiciary means is legislature and executive does not interfere in the working of the judiciary. The judiciary is responsible for even checking the functioning of the legislature and executive. It is also responsible for checking if the legislature and executive are following the laws or not. So this is the work of judiciary, and judiciary comprises of Supreme Court, High Court, and District Court. Moving further. Okay, so these are basically fundamental rights. So there are 6 fundamental rights which are provided by the government. 6 fundamental rights which are provided by the government, which basically these are the rights which safeguards the less powerful group, which safeguards the minority community, which safeguards the people who could be dominated by the more powerful group of people. So these fundamental rights are the list of the rights which basically safeguards the citizen of the country. Now let's understand how. Okay, so the very first one says right to equality. Very first one says right to equality. All the persons are equal before the law. It also states that no citizen can be discriminated against on the basis of religion, caste, or sex. Yes. So each and every citizen in the country will be given equal rights, no matter he belongs to which gender, which religion, or which caste. Doesn't matter. He will be given equal rights. For example, let's take an example of the universal adult franchise, wherein each and every citizen has the right to go and vote for their elected representative. Now in this case, the government won't say that okay, we are giving this particular right only to the ones who are educated and not to the ones who are not. This is not the scenario in the country. Each and every person will be given equal rights, no matter they are educated, they are not educated, they belong to which gender, which religion, which caste. It doesn't matter. Each and every person will be given equal rights. If the majority community is getting this right, the minority will also get the same right. This is right to equality, and each and every person is equal before the law. That is, when you go to the Supreme Court to for justice, the Supreme Court won't say that, okay, I'll give you the justice just because that you belong to the majority community, and I won't give the justice to the minority, to this person because he belongs to the minority community. This does not happen. Before the law, everybody is equal. No one is majority, no one is minority. Moving forward, right to freedom. So basically, right to freedom is the right that has been given, to the people to form uh, associations, right to move freely, reside in any part of the country, and right to practice any profession, occupation, or business, and right to speech and expression. So you might have seen people protesting on the roads, people doing dharnas on the road. So this is basically the freedom of speech and expression, that people have the right to speech, the people have the right to express their opinions in the form of forming association, organization, protesting, doing dharnas, etc., so on so forth. Also, the people have the freedom to do the occupation of their choice, unless and until it's illegal. So anything that is illegal is allowed in the country, and any person is allowed to do or follow any occupation that they want to until it's legal. Okay, moving on. So right against exploitation is the third right that has been given under the fundamental rights to the citizen, which says that any person can be, nobody can be forced, no worker can be forced to work in a bounded wage system in a factory, or no person can be forced by the factory to work overtime and be given less wages for the same, or any child who is below the age group of 14 will be forced to work in a factory which has hazardous gases. So basically, in the other chapters that we are going to cover in the civics, you will understand how there are different tragedies that have happened in the country, which have exploited the people who are less privileged, or the people who are very poor, because they don't have any other work to do. The factories basically force them to work overtime and do not give them the wages. So this particular right safeguards these kind of people from being exploited by the workers. So the factory owners basically force these people to work overtime in their factories because they know that they do not have any other job to do, or they do not have money. So they give them less wages and they force them to do overtime within that bounded wage. Also, they force the children who belong to the age group of 14 or below 14 to work in the places of hazardous gases, because they know that they will have to pay very less for the child which is below 14, and they will actually force him to do a lot of work. So it will be a win-win situation for the factory owners, and this is how they are exploiting the workers, because they know that they're poor and they do not have any other place to go. So they basically, right against exploitation, save these kinds of people from being exploited by the factory owners. Okay, right to freedom of religion. So under this right, basically each and every person has the right to follow, propagate, profess any religion that they want to. Now let me give you an example. For example, I am born in a Hindu family. Now after I grew up, I realized that I am more fascinated towards the religion of Christians and I want to change my religion. So this country, India, allows me to change my religion, because right to freedom of religion gives me the right to propagate, profess any religion that they want to. I am free to follow any religion that I want to. Moving on, cultural and educational rights. Now basically, you might know, you obviously would know that there are different kinds of people who belong to different religions in our country. Like there are Sikh, there are Sai, there are Punjabis, there are Muslims, and each and everybody, you might see that there are schools who belong to Sikh people. There are only Sikh students. Mostly Sikh students go to this particular school. You might see that there are schools which belong to the Sikh people, or only Sikh students go to those schools. These are basically the cultural and educational rights, that a particular religious community is allowed to form their institutions in order to promote their culture and education. In order to promote their culture and religion, they are allowed to form their institutions. Now you might see some Christian schools in which you will see that mostly Christian students will go to study. So that is basically made by the Christian people in order to promote their culture. So the right to culture and educational rights allow the people of different religious communities to form their institutions, to form their educational institutions to promote their culture. So the next right to constitutional remedies. This is basically very important, right? So this right safeguards the people from their rights from being violated. Now, what do we mean by this? So the different rights that we are right, that is right to equality, right to freedom, right to culture and educational rights. Now, in case that anybody trying to dominate you just because that you belong to a minority community and he or she is not giving you equal rights, now you have the right to go in the court and file a petition against the person who's trying to violate your fundamental right, that is right to equality, by dominating you and not giving you equal rights. So this right of you going into the Supreme Court or the High Court or into any court is basically the right to constitutional remedies. Right to constitutional remedies give you the right to go to the court and ask for the justice in case that you feel any of your right is being violated. So this is right to constitutional remedies. Moving on. Okay, secularism, the another feature of the constitution, says that India or any secular state which does not support any one particular religion is known as a secular state. So any country who does not promote any one particular religion is a secular state, like India. India does not promote any one particular religion. India does not say that only India does not say India has so many different kinds of religion. India has Hindus, India has Muslims, India has so many different kinds of religion. Have you ever seen that the government is only supporting Hindus? The government is only asking the people to follow Hindu religion, or the government is only making schemes in the interest of Hindus and not in the interest of Gujaratis and not in the interest of Sikh and not in the interest of Christians. And they are saying that okay, we'll only give the rights to Hindus, or we'll only give the subsidies to Hindus, we'll only give all the schemes for you, we'll only make schemes for only for the betterment of Hindus, let go of the other people in the society, we only support Hindu religion and we force the other people also to follow this religion only. Has it ever happened in our country? No, because India does not support and promote only one religion. It promotes all the religion. It says that each and every religion is important, and we don't promote one religion. We basically support all the religions. Each and every religion is same for us. So this is basically secularism. Any country which does not promote any one religion but promotes all the religion is known as a secular state, and this is known as secularism. Moving on. So this directive principle of state policy is not any key feature of the constitution, but a very vital part of the constitution, which basically say that there are some guidelines in the country which are to be followed, for the betterment of the society. Now let me ask you a question, that if there are laws in the country that are made, the laws of the country are basically made for the betterment of the society. They're made for the betterment of the society, right? They're not made to ruin the society. They're made for the betterment of the society, that there is peace in the society, there is equality in the society, and so on and so forth. So basically for the betterment of the society. Laws are made for the betterment of the societies, and those laws, if violated, the person who violates the laws gets punished. Either he has to pay a penalty, or he's punished, he's put into the jail, or any other punishment. The person who violates the law is punished. Anybody who does the murder basically have violated a law, and he or she will be punished or put into the jail, right? So this is basically breaking of law, violating of the law. So laws are made for the betterment of the society, to safeguard the vulnerable part of the society, for the welfare of the society. The laws are made for the welfare of the society. Now, this is one thing. But there is another concept, which is directive principle of state policy. Now, what does this concept say? This concept says that even though there are laws in the country which all the people have to abide by, there are laws in the country which all the people have to abide by, and in case that they doesn't In case that they don't abide by those laws, they are punished for the same. But there are some guidelines also. There are some guidelines also in the country that the people should follow. There is not a compulsion on the people that they have to follow, but the government says that there are some guidelines in the country that you should follow for the welfare of the society. Now in case that you don't follow, you won't be punished for the same, but it is advisable that you should follow those guidelines, because those guidelines are basically to ensure greater social and economic reforms. Basically those guidelines are for the welfare of the society, and it is advisable that you follow these guidelines, these rules and regulations. In case that you don't, you won't be punished for the same, but it is advisable that you follow, because those are for the betterment of the society, those are for the welfare of the society. Now, I hope that you have understood the key features of the Constitution as well as this concept of directive principles of state policy. So, this brings us to the end of this video. We'll connect in the next video. By then, thank you so much for joining me on Study Room.